Hi, you are listening to Rocklaz Radio,
a podcast discussing inspiring personalities and interesting things. This is your host, Tanmay Shah.
Tanmay is an India-based NFT artist and an entrepreneur with diverse business experience.
This podcast is self-sponsored.
The best way to support this show is to buy his art, NFTs. You can also become his patron. Kindly share this episode on socials and with your friends.
On today's episode, we have with us Tyler Bell. During Tyler's career as engagement and brand manager for Fortune 300 companies, he designed and implemented automated customer journeys to enhance user interaction at every stage of sales funnel. This included cultivating email list of targeted audience, building automated drip marketing campaigns to promote brand awareness, incrementally increasing conversions through A/B testing of emails and landing pages, and improving renewal sales with a granular audience and segmentation and experimentally timed SMS messages. Tyler prides himself as passionate marketer, self-starter who likes to take ugly things and make them beautiful, looks for brainy things to bring rotating back to life, and is always ready to roll up his sleeves and get his hands dirty. Within the NFT space, Tyler worked as a dev for Project Blockchain Badlands and sold over 3,000 PFP styles NFTs on the Ethereum blockchain. While working on this project, Tyler developed a love for talking about NFT marketing in Twitter Spaces. He began hosting frequent spaces under his Twitter profile, Veritas NFT. He focuses on helping artists and devs refine their pitch, how projects can deliver value to NFT holders. Through these spaces, Tyler has helped over 30 projects achieve their first sales, and several projects sold out after implementing some of his marketing suggestions. He is always eager to talk about all things marketing and use his background to lend advice whenever he can. Tyler, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much. And Tanmay, you've obviously been in my spaces. You've heard me talk to people about their pitch. You've heard me go from start to finish on what I think is the rubric, what I think is the path you should follow. And you've also you've done it on your own project.
Absolutely. Guys, I have personally been I have got a lot of insights and benefits after coming to Tyler's space. I definitely, the way he was able to structure the whole pitch, or as we refer to as shill in the NFT space, that is pretty awesome. And it has helped many, not just me as one-of-one artist, but as he mentioned, 30 projects and several one-of-one artists. So I think let us begin with that itself. So what is a perfect shill for you?
Sure. This is a great question. So, I didn't even realize that I was going to focus on this a lot when I first started doing spaces. But when I first started hosting spaces and asking people to pitch their project, then I realized how many people needed some help. And there are so many fantastic artists out there, just so many amazing artists. And all they need to do is refine their pitch to get more sales. I believe this so strongly that it's not a problem with your art. It's not a problem with the value. It's a problem in communication. So, after hearing quite a bit of pitches and then telling people what I wanted to hear, because in my shill spaces, whenever I have people come up, I always tell people, hey, what I'm trying to do is help you sell your artwork to me. And if it works on me, I think it'll work on other people. I can't guarantee that it'll work on other people, but if it works on me, I as a marketer tend to think that it'll help convince other people. So I kind of break it down into a few different things that kind of gives people a roadmap to follow when they're trying to do their shill. And so this way, you know, I've worked with people who don't even speak English, as like they hardly speak any English, and I've had a translator, you know, translate to them what the steps are, and then they were able to give fantastic pitches, and they could hardly speak English. So, you know, here are the key steps, I think. Number one is going to be pin your artwork at the top of the space. So whenever you get the chance to come into a space and shill or pitch your artwork, you're not going to have the same effect if people don't see the artwork that you're talking about. So you could talk about the color, you could talk about the people, you could talk about the subject, but if they're not seeing it, it's not going to have the same impact. So I always tell people, whenever you get into a space, you know, thank the host for calling you up. Take a minute and say, just give me a second to pin my artwork at the top. Just give me a second. And that way, everyone in the space will see your artwork. And not only that, they're going to have an easy way to click on it and be able to go and visit your profile and go visit your artwork on OpenSea or whatever platform that it might be on. So it has a lot of value to start with that first. So after you pin your artwork, I always tell people, give an introduction of who you are. You know, and so especially with artists who are doing one-of-one projects, you're not just selling your artwork, you're selling a piece of who you are. You're selling your story about why you made the artwork, what motivated you, what compelled you, what's your background in life, what adversities have you had to overcome that have made you want to make this artwork. So I always tell people, start with an introduction about yourself. You know, I'm Tanmay. I live in India. You know, here are the areas of artwork that I'm passionate about, and here's the subject of my art that the factors in my life have led me to create this type of art. That way, people can understand. Okay, if your artwork is about this or that, they have a frame of reference for understanding why you made it. So that's kind of the number 2 point. Number 1 would be, you know, pin your artwork. Number 2, introduce yourself. Number 3 is talk about your artwork. Talk about what makes your artwork different. Talk about what makes your artwork unique. Talk about why you like your artwork or why other people should like your artwork. You know, you should be able to talk about your artwork and say, you know, if you have one thing that separates you from any other artwork, talk to people about it. You know, my artwork is about this animal, which no other NFT project is making, you know, artwork about this animal, and I'm passionate about this animal for this reason. Or my artwork is about cityscapes, and cityscapes are important to me, and you know, I've spent time in these cities, and these cities have an emotional impact on me. And so I think it's really important to describe your artwork, because people who might not have clicked on your profile yet, or who might not have seen you yet, you can kind of lay the foundation for them to understand what your artwork is, and when they go and see it, it's going to make sense. So that's kind of the number 3 one, and that's usually the one that I tell the people to spend the most amount of time on. You know, don't sell yourself short in talking about your art, because you are the expert on your art. No one knows your artwork better than you do. So make sure that you do a good job of being able to explain what your artwork is about and why you made it. The next one after that, I always tell people, mention the price. So, you know, if you're at a store or if you're going to buy something, chances are you're not going to buy it without understanding what the price is. You know, you're not going to buy something off the shelf without saying, oh, let me check how much this costs first. And so some people will go through their whole pitch and they'll never say what the price is. So some people, if they see the artwork and they say, this artwork's really good, I really like it, the subject's amazing, if you don't tell them the price, they might automatically assume it's unaffordable. Or if it's expensive, you might give them time to convince themselves that it's worth it by them listening to the rest of your pitch, and then them saying, you know what, even though it's expensive, like, I have to get this art, you know? So make sure that you mention the price and what blockchain or platform that it's on. And then the last thing, you know, and Tanmay, I know this one is probably unique to my shill space, and I know you've heard me tell this to people tons of times, is tell people what you're going to use the money for. You know, so there's this weird thing in the NFT space where we all know that people are out here to get rich. We all know people are out here to sell their artwork and to get themselves out there. But it's almost like people feel guilty for admitting that or for recognizing that. But I tend to think it's the opposite, that we should be fully honest about the fact that, yeah, we're trying to sell artwork. Yeah, we're trying to get in money. And the reason why we're trying to do that is because I have very human needs and wants that are probably the same ones that you have. So if I'm trying to put my daughter through college, if I'm trying to pay off my car or pay my mortgage, or even if I want to help other artists in the NFT space, or any reason at all that you might have for why you want to earn money is a good enough reason, I think. But if you don't tell people, then they're automatically going to assume that you don't need the money, or maybe that it's unrelatable. Like, oh, they're just going to blow the money on something stupid and they're just going to make up the answers in their mind. But if you tell them, then people will understand. And, more often than not in my spaces, people have such good reasons for trying to make artwork. They're trying to help their parents. They're trying to help their kids. They're trying to pay their bills. I think all of us can relate to that and understand what that feels like. So I always tell people to end on that, and end with honesty. Tell people why we're out here doing this. And then, people are going to agree with that.
You always mention that we shouldn't assume that you're going to go and buy Lamborghini when you get rich. So mention what you're actually doing, what you're going to do with it.
Exactly, because I think that everyone kind of assumes that, like, oh, is this person just going to make a ton of money and buy something stupid? Like, maybe they will, but if they tell you why they like Lamborghinis, you won't be as mad about it as if you just feel like they just blew their money. It's like, just give someone the chance to say what they want to spend their money on.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. So we are new to the NFT space. The NFT space itself is quite new. So how did you get into NFTs, and how did you get into developing your own project?
Sure, this is a good question. So I think one of my buddies contacted me in last June or July, and he had been into NFTs and seen them grow. And it was a guy that I grew up with, a guy named Taylor. And he was like, hey, you should check out NFTs, because I was heavily into day trading at the time. I've always been into trading and stuff like that. He's like, this is up your alley. And I was like, I don't know if I understand it that well, and he's like, well, it's about the community, it's about the artwork. And he knew, you can see in my wall behind me, I collect artwork from all different places and all different subjects. So he knew it was going to be up my alley. I'm into investing and I'm into artwork. So once I kind of started checking them out and stuff, he was like, we should do an NFT together. He's like, I think it would be a lot of fun. And I was like, all right. And so, I have a marketing background. He has a project management background. And so then we had to kind of decide, what's the subject matter going to be? And him and I, when we were growing up, we used to game together all the time. And so we were kind of like, what if, we haven't seen, blockchain video games that much, like what if we made a game on the blockchain? So we're like, yeah, we love this idea. So we started Blockchain Badlands to try and kind of make a video game on the blockchain. And we invested a ton of money to make the baddest artwork, and I still think our Blockchain Badlands characters are some of the coolest out there. But, that said, I kind of had this moment where I was like just laying in bed and I was like, there are so many gaming genres like Zelda, Counter-Strike, Fortnite. I was like, if we pick one game, like, we're not going to be able to reach all the people who care about gaming in the NFT space, and I was like, not only that, what if our game sucks? Like what if we have no experience in game development, like what if we try and go out and hire developers and the game sucks? And so I was like, this just seems like too high of a risk, So then I kind of came to Taylor and I was like, hey, I think we got to change the angle of our project. I was like, I think we should start focusing on empowering gamers. And that should be kind of the end all be all of our project. And that with the money that we take in from the project, we set up gaming tournaments, we set up community prizes, we give away gaming consoles, we give away video games. And basically we create a community that rewards people for being gamers and helps them get better at gaming and have more fun while gaming. So that became kind of the angle that we wanted to take, because then you could play any game and still be a part of our community instead of playing one game. So that was I think around August or so, and then we went through obviously the development project, and we launched our project October 11th, and so I got to see what building a Discord community was like, building a Twitter following, and kind of going through the ringer of the NFT generative building process.
So how is it now? You have 3,000 sales, as you mentioned, and what is current process? Have you hosted competitions? And
Sure. So we encountered a lot of roadblocks. There was a lot of problems to selling out. That is what we needed. I think our goal was a little big. We had a goal of 10,000 sold, and it was the night that we went live with our mint, gas had skyrocketed to $500 and stayed that way for the whole weekend. So it really kind of killed the momentum on our project, because so many projects were being dropped right in early October. And then the size of our goal, like our ambition for what we wanted to do, we wanted to put together an esports team. We were hiring professional gamers. We were spending tons of money in giveaways. I think there was a lot of things that we didn't calculate on, because we kind of assumed sellout was going to be easy and instant. We had 17,000 followers on our Twitter. We had 10,000 people on our Discord. We thought this was going to be a home run, but it was a much slower process than we anticipated. So we chose to really take the money that we had brought in and start acting on our roadmap instantly. So we took that money and we started setting up gaming tournaments, and we started setting up reward programs, and started setting up all these things to benefit our members. But when you take money away from marketing and you take your pedal off the marketing, you don't see the sales volume in the same way. So it was kind of like a this or that problem, where it's like, did we want to rob our current buyers by not giving them the things we promised to focus on marketing, or do we want to say, hey, we're fine with rewarding our community members with this amount of money, but we might not reach sellout. So we kind of chose to focus on our community, which is always our number one goal. And it kind of slowed down the trajectory of the project for a while, but we're not giving up on it. And so right now we've been working with devs to kind of create a tokenization for our project, and kind of breathe new light into the project with some ways to reward the holders in ways that wasn't there previously. And then we're also looking at releasing on a new blockchain, and try and bring in some new people at a lower cost, and kind of bring in some new buyers that we didn't have access to on the Ethereum blockchain. So that way we can bring in more revenue and kind of kickstart everything again, and have a new exciting tokenization program that can reward people. And so we're still fighting for it every day. That is
amazing. The community aspect is very big in NFT space, and you'll hear this word many times, and sometimes it's loosely thrown around, but sometimes it is people who are actually doing well, like Tyler, and giving time and giving his expertise and opinions on other people's projects. That is a thing which is driving people ahead. So thank you for that. You have been in marketing. So what was your role in that Fortune 300 company, or if you can name the company, which one was it?
Sure.
And I just want to know, what are your expertise?
So the company I work for is called Gallagher, and they sell insurance internationally across the globe. And my role is in marketing automation. So marketing automation is essentially being able to automate many pieces of marketing for customers or non-customers, so that many different people don't have to do it. For example, we work in the side of selling insurance to massage therapists, yoga instructors, people that kind of have their own little small businesses, and they need liability insurance to help protect them in case something happens. So, marketing automation would include creating social ads, or creating ebooks, creating awareness for people to learn why they might need insurance. So then, we get the ebooks made, we get the social ads made, and then I build the automation to decide if someone visits our website, maybe they should see an ad for it. If someone opens up an email from us, maybe they should get more emails. And then once they become customers, then we're going to send them information about, here's what is included in your member benefits. Here's how to use your policy to the best advantage that you can. And then while your expiration date for your policy is approaching, we're going to be sending you reminders. Hey, make sure you renew your policy. And if your policy expires, we're going to be sending you information about, hey, make sure you sign back up with us to protect your career. So, with a big customer base, if you didn't employ marketing automation, you would be having to send thousands of emails every single day, thousands of emails, thousands of text messages, thousands of Facebook ads, thousands of PPC ads. And through marketing automation, I'm able to automate that process and do the work of many people essentially as one person, because I can predict the behavior and when they need to receive a marketing communication and then deliver that marketing communication.
So are there any tools that people can for testing or to just get used to can start off for a very low or for a trial basis?
Sure. So, the number one tool that we use is called Salesforce Marketing Cloud. And this is not only a CRM, so, a customer, basically a customer information platform where you can, house all of your customer data, but it's also a marketing platform. So you can send emails directly from it. You can send ads directly from it, stuff like that. It is very expensive to use. I think that even a yearly membership is going to run you over six figures. It's very expensive to use. And most of the time, the companies that are using it are very big companies, but there are smaller platforms that you can use to do marketing automation. There's one called Mautic that's really good, but in general, I don't think marketing automation is something people need to focus on until you have a very big client base, and until you have lots of customers every single month, and you're trying to manage all of your communications at the same time. If you're just getting started, I would say a platform like MailChimp and running your own emails yourself, doing them monthly and then managing your own ads through Facebook or Twitter or Instagram is very doable. And I would recommend that first before any sort of marketing automation. Typically marketing automation, you don't need until you're reaching the tens of thousands of communications being sent every month.
Yes, absolutely. So CRM Custer, if you just Google that, I think the viewers, listeners can find many other options. And as you mentioned, Twitter and Instagram, I think they can start off with this. And once they have an audience of 10,000 plus, so then they can start actually paying out and doing those automation for themselves. You mentioned you're a self-starter and you have tackled many ugly things and made them beautiful. So could you give some examples of those?
Sure. So, really the reason why I wrote that in there is because, one of the things that's my hobby outside of marketing is I like fixing dirt bikes and boats, so like I've bought, old beat up dirt bikes or old beat up boats, and then I'll break down the motors, I'll rebuild them, I'll get them running again and turn them back into something lively instead of something that was dead. And to me, that's important for, when I'm looking for a job, for that to be on my resume, so that people know that, it's not just marketing, that I have this personality trait. This personality trait is in me through a lot of things, So that's kind of where that came from. But in regards to marketing, I can certainly give you some examples. I worked for this company called B&G Refrigeration. And when I got hired on as a marketing manager, I was looking at and they were selling ice machines online. And I was like, man, there's so much improvement that needs to be done here. It's hard to describe because it's such a big undertaking, and they didn't have the budget for a big team. They didn't have a huge budget for a lot of things. They had hired me to be their marketing manager, and I was kind of like the one-man band at the time, And so I had talked to my boss, and I was like, I think we need to redo the website. I think we need to move into a new e-commerce platform. I think we need to move into a new hosting platform and do VPS hosting. And because they had basically set up GoDaddy's web builder and GoDaddy's shopping cart. And the problem was that they had good sales volume, but it was so hard and difficult to use, and it errored so many times. And basically what I told him was, like, you have the people who want to buy from you, you're just making it a pain in the ass to do it. Like, we could fix this. So I ended up rebuilding a site for him from scratch with Magento, which Magento is one of the most powerful e-commerce platforms out there. And I didn't know anything about web design with Magento at the time, but I knew plenty about e-commerce through WordPress and Shopify and stuff like that. And so I thought, I could learn this, I could figure this out. So it took me a little bit of time, but I figured out how to make them this great website out of Magento. And then we moved away from GoDaddy. And then they went from selling, I think, maybe $100,000 in yearly revenue to they went to over $700,000 in the first 6 months that I had done this. So, I think when I calculated it, it was like a 330% increase within 6 months, every single month.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was, that to me is just such a great example of something that was ugly and dreary and needed some hard work. It needed someone to get in there and get their hands dirty and fix what was going on. But the potential was there. I knew the potential was there. I knew it was going to be worth the work. And then at the end of the day, they've seen really tremendous success from it. So that was really exciting to see.
So this is a great example of problem solving. So in general, when you see a problem, how do you break it down, or how do you analyze that and frame the correct question before actually getting to solving it?
This is a fantastic question. This is a question that I think more people could learn about and learn how to start the process correctly, so that even though sometimes people come up with the right answer, but they don't come up with the right way of getting to that answer, And so there's so many times where people see opportunity, but they don't see the right way of getting to that opportunity. So I think this is a great question. So one of the first ways that I tackle it in marketing is through what I call low-hanging fruit and long-term goals. So when I take a project, where I know that there's issues and I know there's problems, there's going to be different timelines on how long each problem is going to take to fix. Some of them might take 2 weeks. Some of them might take 6 months to a year. So the first thing you have to do is correctly organize the problems into what the timeline is going to be to fix them. And what that's going to do is it's going to help you prioritize them, because why would you start on the problem that takes 2 years when you can start on 10 problems that can all be solved in a month? And then that you're immediately going to start bringing in more revenue. You're immediately going to see some positive impact through those short-term wins. So one of the first steps I do for problem solving is find my short-term wins. Find the ones that I can do quickly and get the ball rolling faster. Because one of the things in marketing is that if you have more data, you can make smarter decisions. And so if I can get the ball moving faster in the short term, that's going to make me have a smarter outlook and a smarter decision for fixing the longer term problem. So one of the first things I always try and do is, all right, what are my easy wins? What can I take off the table right now? And then I'll fix those first. And those problems could be any number of things, but anything that can be solved in 2 weeks or a month, that's what I'm going to tackle first. And I'm going to go full force and make sure that I fix all of those first. And then once I do that, I'm going to say, all right, now what are my long-term ones? And then, if you have 3 problems that are all over a year or longer to fix, decide which one is going to be your best return on investment, your best ROI for work. Like, I know this is a problem, but it might only bring in 10% new sales. But this other one I know is a problem. It might bring in 50% new sales. That one's going to be one that you're going to start, you need to prioritize first than the other one. So even though you're identifying the right problems, identifying when to do them is going to be key to your success. So I think that's kind of my step for breaking it down is identify the short-term wins, identify the long-term wins, and then figure out how to make the best bang for your buck every day. Make sure that your work that you're doing is the most valuable work you could be doing at that moment.
So for breaking down the problem, finding out what can be done easily and tackling the low-hanging fruits to get them essentially. So could you explain this with another example? And also, I had a counter question that what happens when you, when we start writing down tasks, there are so many tasks, and then we just get busy for busy sake, and sometimes it doesn't really, we try to solve which is easy, which we think can be done quickly. So, but doing that only, that takes up the whole time, and then really what the thing which is important and that could give return, that sort of gets pushed ahead. So what do you say about that? And
sure. So, the good thing about marketing, and the really one of the reasons that I like working in this industry, is that I can pretty much quantify to the dollar how much all of my effort does. Because at the end of the month, if my company has a 30% improvement, that 30% improvement is from me. It's from no one else. It's from me, because I'm the one that put in the effort to bring in new business or to gain more customers that we already have. So, it's a very real and visceral way to see how much time my time is worth. Like if I can say I brought in $1 million this month and I spent 500 hours doing it, I can calculate to the minute how much money I was bringing in for each minute of my work. So one of the things I would encourage people to think about is start measuring their progress based upon how much sales increase and how much volume increase they're producing. So if 1 month you're working on stuff every day, you're working 40 hours a week on it, and you're not seeing the sales improvement, you're going to know that you were working on the wrong stuff. Even if it was the right answer, even if in the back of your head that you should be doing it, if it's not having an effect on sales, it's the wrong answer. It's not bringing in money. So that's one thing I always try and look at, is I always try and look at the bottom line. How much money am I bringing in? How much money is my effort each month bringing in? How much money is my effort each week bringing in? And that's really going to dictate a lot of your decisions. So back to your example about, we have a lot of problems, and sometimes, we don't know which ones to do. So, one of the times I was working on this website redesign, and this website redesign requires rebuilding tons of new pages. It requires getting a new logo done. It requires, tons of new imagery. It requires a lot of work that needs to get done. But, is working on every part of it going to bring in money? Maybe, maybe not. But there was one page that I found that was one of our very highly converting pages, and it was pointing traffic to the wrong area. And when I was looking at it, I was like, if I pointed that page to a better version of this page, I bet I could bring in an extra 100,000 a year from doing this. So I literally spent the time to redesign that page because it was a highly trafficked page. It was, even though I knew I had to redesign the whole site, even though I knew how to do that, that was going to take me forever. So what I did first is I looked at the pages that were already bringing in the most money and said, let me fix those pages first. And so this page I fixed. I redesigned it with a much better focus on conversion optimization, and I pointed all of the traffic from that page to the new page. And then within a month, we had brought in an extra 40 grand, so that right there, I knew I still had to redesign all the rest of the pages of the website. I knew I still had to get a new logo. I knew I still had to get a new imagery. But what I did was I chose one of the tasks that would immediately start bringing in money and would be a lot more valuable long term. Whereas if I waited until the end of the year to make that change, all of the entire site traffic that was going to that page, we were missing out on that money for the whole entire year because I didn't choose to do it first. So that's how I really try and evaluate problems.
Interesting. So money can be a good metric to analyze what problem we are solving, and the one which can get immediate returns can be tackled along, and colors and logos and images, or that is not directly impacting, can be a secondary option. So sure. Yes, thank you for that. You have been can you share your experience as a dev? And dev is a developer, or does it stand for something more?
No, it stands for developer, and it was a lot different of a requirement than I initially thought. I think that when I took it on, it was because I was a web developer previously, and I also was a marketer. So it seemed like I was a good fit for what the development role meant. But what I've come to learn is that the project is what a developer means to a project is a lot more than that. It's the guy that's going to respond to everyone on Discord. It's the guy that's going to be there first in the morning and say good morning. It's going to be the guy that's last in there at night to say good night to people. It's the guy that's going to be hosting Twitter Spaces and answering people's questions and answering hard questions. And when people say this project looks like a rug, this project is not going anywhere, this project, answering the haters' questions and being able to be confident and be willing to stand by your project. That's really what it means and represents, because, a developer, the functions of the developer are not that well defined. They don't have to be the artist. They don't have to be the social media manager. They don't have to be the Discord manager. But what they do have to be is the face of the project. They have to be the person responsible for making the project grow. And if the project isn't growing, they have to be responsible to answer the questions to your community and be responsible. If stuff's going wrong, they need a point of contact they can rely on to represent the project, where if the house is burning, who can they ask? Who can they say, why did this happen? What are you going to do to fix it? You need one person that can be responsible for doing that. So, becoming a developer, I think, is a lot different than I initially thought, but also I think a lot more people are capable of it than maybe they think, because you don't need to have artist background. You don't need to have social media background. You don't have this. You just have to be willing to take responsibility. You have to be able to take ownership of something and make it yours. Me and Taylor both agreed early on that we would be fully doxxed on the project, and we were going to put our faces out there. We're going to put our names out there because we wanted people to know that you weren't just buying into our project. You're buying into our reputation. You're buying into who we are as people. And I think as a dev, it's important to sell that part about yourself. Sell your commitment to the project for who you are. What does this represent to you? How much work are you willing to do to make sure it succeeds? And so that's why I think, like you said, the word is kind of vague, but now I think I have a better understanding of it and what it means. And to me, what it really means is someone that's going to be the person responsible for everything and willing to answer questions.
Dev is like a new entrepreneur.
Okay. It's strange.
So you have been my collector, and there are a lot of wonderful artworks behind you. So first of all, what are those behind you, and where did you collect them from?
That's a good question. So these ones behind me here, I'll give you a close-up view of these. These ones behind me actually came from my uncle who passed away. And are you still with me, Tanmay?
Yes.
So here, my camera's switching here because I just unplugged everything. All right, you still with me? So I found these in his garage when we were cleaning out his garage for, like after he passed away and everything. I found these prints and they were rolled up in a canister. And so I opened them up and I was like, these are amazing. I love these. And, one of the things I found out about him was that, he used to go to a lot of music festivals in the 60s and 70s. And so he got these prints from somebody that was attending a music festival that had done the original versions of these artwork. And then he bought a print from them, and then he stored it forever. And then, never did anything with them. And then, me as a teenager, I mean, I've had these for over 10 years now. I mean, I've had them for maybe 15 years. He just had them in a rolled up tube. And then when I found them, I was like, man, those are going up on my wall. I love those.
Amazing. Can you switch on the light in front of you? So your face is in a shadow right now. So while collecting NFTs or NFT artworks, what is it that you're looking, and how do you pick them?
Sure, this is a great question. So to me, it matters on, number one, whether it's a generative collection or whether it's a non-generative collection. So with generative collections, I'm counting on the growth of the artwork. I'm counting on the growth of the community. I'm counting on utility. So when I'm looking at generative collections, the artwork a lot of times is less valuable to me because I know that they're doing a 3,000, 5,000, 10,000 collection. So it doesn't matter as much that the artwork speaks to me. To me, the project roadmap, the project community, and kind of the utility of the project are really important to me, because that's going to tell me if I think the project is going to be successful long term. And when I buy generative pieces of art, I'm generally looking for them to gain value. I don't buy generative artwork just to hold on to it because it's unique and interesting. No, they've made 10,000 of them. It's not unique and interesting. It's part of a giant collection. So I like to really try and evaluate who the project devs are. Has the artist made a successful collection before? What do I gain as a holder? Do I gain some sort of token? Do I gain access to some sort of membership value? Do I gain future whitelisting? What sort of benefits do I get as a community holder? And then I think, what do I like about the community? What's interesting about the community? What's different? Do they have some sort of overarching goal, whether it's to help animals or to make a video game or to do something like that? So I like to try and evaluate all these factors based upon that. So I think that it's tough to make a generative collection that's competitive and kind of hits all those marks for me. I think that I buy generative collections a lot less than I buy one of one and, solo artist collections. So, with that being said, when I look at solo artists and one of one collections, it's a lot simpler for me. It's much simpler for me. Do I like the artwork? Can I look at the artwork at face value and say I like it? Are the colors interesting to me? Is the subject interesting to me? Have they put enough time and effort into the artwork for me to know that I'm getting my money's worth? It's not like they just threw something in paint and said, here you go. Did they actually take time and focus to make something interesting to me? So that's really important. Number two is I like to know who the artist is. Do you plan on making more artwork? Are you going to be out there marketing yourself in spaces? Are you going to use this money for something interesting? Are you going to make more cool collections? Those are super key points to me. Because I know for a fact that one art can go up in value, but it doesn't go up in value often if the artist isn't willing to work hard. The artist has to be putting out new collections. They have to be selling out their collections, and they have to be marketing themselves in Twitter Spaces and Instagram and getting themselves out there. So if they don't have the stomach for that, it's going to be a slow burn for that NFT to gain value. And then beyond that, I like to know what they're going to spend the money on. I like to know if I like the artist as a person, because one of the things I tell people all the time is that with one collections, a lot of times I'll buy artwork even if I don't like the artwork as much as I like the person, because I'm willing to support an artist's journey. I'm willing to give them the money because I like their story. I like who they are. And so that's why I tell artists they need to focus on that so much, because with a generative collection, I don't give a shit who you are. I don't give a shit about your story. I'm in it to make money. So, I don't care about how good your story is. I care about my ability to make money. But with the 1-1 pieces, me making money back on it isn't as an important of concept to me. So I like to understand who they are. I like to know who they are. And if I like them, I'm going to support their project without question. I'm gonna market for them. I'm gonna talk about their project for them, and that's what I like about buying 1-1 art more often than not. I mean, you've seen me do it in Twitter Spaces several times. I love supporting artists. I love getting behind people's story. I like understanding their motivation. That's just something that I like about NFTs.
That's really awesome. I witnessed it myself. You always talk about arts that you like, that you collected, and you always remember what the person has spoken last time. So that's really awesome. So about value, how do you derive value from NFTs? And for me, it is a little vague of why this PFPs are still there for a money grab, because I see, for me to invest in some project, I see it in two ways. One is it a crowdfunding for a business? So that business should have, when we say roadmap, it should have plans for generating future revenues. So they should not be dependent only on raising second money through second collection, third collection, but something that they're doing with already collected money. And the second, which sounds convincing, is like a membership to a private community. But for doing that also, they need that level of people in the community in the first place that can attract other people as well. So what do you think about these two, and what are the other things that they can provide value, or those people outside? So this podcast is being listened by many people around the world, may or may not relate to NFTs. So people who are not related to NFTs and crypto, how can they come into this without being fear of course they'll spend what they're willing to lose, but how should they enter the space? Or
this is a great question. So one of the major parts of your question that I'd like to tackle first is about whether you should mint a project or whether you should buy a project on secondary. And so one of the things that is hyped about in the NFT space and is talked about nonstop is about minting a project at a low cost that takes off. Yeah, that you got whitelisted on, you bought it at a low cost, and then the project moons. The project goes to 1 Ethereum plus. And, when I first entered the NFT space, it's like the holy grail. It's like the pipe dream. I'm gonna buy a project for 0.06 and it's gonna go to 10 Ethereum and I'm gonna make a shitload of money. And like that's the holy grail. Everyone wants that to happen. But the problem is that more often than not, that doesn't happen. And not only that, when you do mint projects, for the most part, in almost every project that I have bought into, it wasn't the lowest price point I could have bought into, even if the project did eventually take off, even if the project did eventually gain major value. What you're going to see is that the minting period is usually a time of very high volatility where the price goes up dramatically, and then the price, after reveal goes way down, and then it's like the building phase. Then the devs have to do the hard work to gain the project value. And then you see a lot of people, I minted, the project hasn't skyrocketed yet. They all dump their NFTs, and then you have loyal people who stick around. But that period of time for me is the period of time that I look for. So I've minted tons of projects. Some of them have done well, some of them haven't done well. But what I can tell you is when you're minting a project, especially on Ethereum blockchain, where you have to pay things like gas, fighting a gas war and paying more in gas for an NFT, to me, is never valuable. It's just not a smart decision. And also, when you're minting a project, you don't have a lot of data or information to suggest that people want to actually buy it. I mean, if we look at Mechaverse, for example, during the minting phase, people were outrageously trying to mint it. They were selling unrevealed PFPs for 8 Ethereum. As soon as they got revealed, people were starting to dump them for 1 Ethereum, 1.5 Ethereum. You know, like people were willing to lose $20,000 plus because of how much they didn't believe in the project. And so for me, it's like, man, that's such a bad indicator of a project that I want to stick with. If someone is willing to say, I'm willing to lose 20 grand on this project to get out of it, that's alarming to me. And it's much easier for me to support projects where the mint was at an affordable price. It didn't take off in a crazy way. Maybe it went down a little bit afterward, but it is still kind of held steady. And then now they're in a growth phase. That to me is those are the golden projects you should be looking at. And, you know, one thing that I try and look at a lot is volume and sales volume relative to price. So, you know, even if a project is selling a bunch of pieces, are they selling a lot of pieces because people are willing to take less money and the sales volume is up because the price is going lower and lower and lower and lower? Or is the sales volume not that high because no one's willing to sell and the price is staying strong? Because so it's really important to consider sales volume relative to price. You know, like that to me is a really important indicator. So, and that kind of, you know, that comes from my background in day trading and stuff like that. You know, like sales volume in stocks and what people are willing to sell and buy for is obviously, you know, key metric in buying stocks. And I think it's a key metric in buying NFTs. But, you know, when I talk to new buyers in the NFT space, I try and tell them not to find new projects because there's so many unknown factors. You're more often going to be wrong than you are right. You know, like the fact of the matter is there's so many projects minting every day. And you just don't have enough information to find out if people like the project, if they don't like it, if the devs are good people or not. But projects that already exist and they've been going steady and they've been putting in the groundwork and the devs have been sticking around with the community, that to me is a great signal to buy. You know that people are interested, they're sticking with it, you know, the devs are with them. Those are the types of projects I would enter. So when I'm looking at generative projects, I generally try and focus on projects that have already minted and then have gone through that scale up in price and then scale down in price. And then, you know, what I really look for is how are they holding mint cost after sellout? So, or if they haven't sold out, you know, is the price dropping severely below what they minted for, or is it staying around that price? And if you see a collection where they sell out the collection, and then usually the price will go up quite a bit, and then you'll see people doing a sell-off, and then you'll see it come down to right where mint cost is, and that's where you're really going to know, is the project going to dump or is the project going to go up from there? So I like to see the projects recover from mint costs, and then I like to purchase right around mint costs after that scale up, scale down, and then buy right at mint costs. And then I know that's the baseline. I know no one's going to let it drop below that. And then that's a perfect entry point for me.
Wonderful. So how OpenSea is a huge sea. How do you, with somebody with no background, how do they enter? Because successful projects will have prices out of the reach. And for the projects who have gone up and come down, you are never sure that if it is ever going to come up again or no. So how do you identify those kind of projects?
Well, first of all, I strongly recommend people getting into the NFT space to try and make money. You know, the NFT space has a lot more to offer the world and a lot more to offer people than just making money. And I think that if that's your main focus, there's a good chance that you're going to lose money. There's a good chance you won't do enough research. There's a good chance you won't care enough about projects. There's a good chance you just won't read enough to be successful in buying and selling NFTs. You're competing against people who have already done this for months. You're competing against people who have a lot more money than you. You're competing against so many people who are in it to make money, and they're a lot smarter than you, and they're a lot more well-funded than you. So, typically I tell people, buy into the NFT projects that you like. Buy the people that you like. Buy the artwork that you like, so that even if you're potentially going to lose some money, your feelings are good. I buy 1/1 collections all the time. I don't care at all if they lose money. I don't care at all. I like the artists. I like who they are. I don't care if they lose money. And so that's why sometimes the NFT space is not right for everyone. If this is your get rich quick scheme, I would say you are going to lose money and you shouldn't do this. But if you love NFTs, if you love artwork, and if you want to put in the time and the energy, and you want to buy some projects that are going to fail, and you want to buy some projects that are going to be successful, that's how you're going to get good at it. You got to buy some stinkers to get some winners. The good comes with the bad. And that's the only way I think you can really get that knowledge. You don't just get that knowledge handed to you. So if you want to have a good time in the NFT space, I tell people, just focus on buying artwork that you like and supporting artists who you like. That should be your number one thing if you want to enter the NFT space. If you want to enter this to make money, accept losing money. Accept it right off the bat that you're not good enough and you're not smart enough to make money on the get-go, and be prepared for it. And if you are prepared for it, I think you can eventually make money, just not right now.
I like the way you said, if they're just in for money, they will not do the research, they will not give in the time. And that happens in the stock market as well. As we can see, freshers are coming in and they learn from the burns, and then if they're serious, they come back. So what should be the primary source for information or identifying these projects? Most of us are living on the Twitter spaces, but are there any other place? Because there were a couple of projects like Invisible Friends or something that I didn't really get to see them on Twitter spaces, but I don't know from where they came from and how other people got into it.
That's another tough thing to unpack entirely. Like how do you become the person in the know? And I can tell you right now that it doesn't come with any lack of hard work. You got to work your ass off to be able to be in enough Discords, to be talking to enough people, to find out the information that's good. You got to be joining Twitter spaces. You got to be in Discord. You got to be reading what's going on every single day. So that's kind of the first and foremost, for if you want the scoop on new projects. I think, talking to people on Twitter, talking to people on Discord is the only way that you're actually going to do it. And you got to find people that you trust, people who are influencers in the space. People are coming to them every day with projects. People are coming to them one after the other with projects. So they're going to see a lot more projects than you have access to seeing. So, I would say find someone that you like, find someone's Twitter space that you like, that they're successful in the space, and then listen to their advice, listen to their recommendations. It's not always going to work out for you, I can tell you that. But if they're smart and they're capable, they might give you some good insight. Beyond that, if you're trying to find the information yourself, what I try and do is I'll use a site like Rarity Tools, and then I'll look at like what project has been selling a lot in the last 7 days, what project has been selling a lot in the last 24 hours. And then I like to go by sales volume, and then I find new projects that way where I haven't heard about them, but I know that they're having some good sales volume. And then I'll start researching the project from there. I'll check out their website, I'll check out their Twitter, I'll check out their Discord. So I'll use a site like Rarity Tools to try and find out what other people are buying very frequently, and then try and unpack from there what the significance is. Are these people wrong? Are they stupid? Are they making a dumb decision? Or is this project a sleeper? Is this a great project people just haven't heard about and I haven't heard about it yet? And that's kind of how I like to enter projects.
So Twitter Spaces and Discord and Rarity Tools for the tools to get there, but people have to put in the hour to talk to other people who have already researched it. And of course, there is a lot that comes after second and third question about the same topic. So I can, that's a very interesting point. I wanted to ask you one thing. in US, donation, there's a tax saving thing that the rich use, which I've seen in many videos. Buying a painting from an artist at $10,000 or something, raising the price to 1 million and donating it to charity or some museum and claiming that 1 million as a tax deduction or something. So correct me if I'm wrong in this process. And second is that applicable for NFT or will it be?
So I know that you're right to some extent about how that works, but there is only a certain amount of charitable donations you're allowed to make. So I don't think you could claim as much as 1 million. I think it might be as small as 10,000 that you're allowed to claim in charitable donations or write up. But that would be from the charitable side. But there's also loss, like being able to claim something as a loss. So it's kind of works the inverse where, you know, someone will have a painting, like let's say you have a painting and then I buy it from you that's a very high price, but maybe I don't pay you the very high price, you know, like I pay you 10,000, we tell everyone you sold it to me for 50,000, and then I sell it for 10,000 back to someone else, and then I say that, hey, I took a $30,000 loss on this painting that I bought. That would be, in my mind, the more common way that that's used. Not the charitable donation side. It's more of the loss side through insider trading, where, you know, you sold me something where I gave you 10,000, but we actually write on the paperwork 80, and then I'm only able to sell it for 20 after that, and then I can write off the loss after that. So, in my mind, that's how that happens more frequently. And then in the NFT space, there are ways to get creative with, you know, some of your accounting and stuff like that right now, because there's not a lot of clarity from the IRS on whether NFTs are securities, kind of like stocks or currency.
IRS is the institution that regulates investment and all. What does
Correct.
it do?
The IRS regulates taxation in the United States.
Okay.
They're the Internal Revenue Service. So there's not a lot of good clarity from them right now whether NFTs are a form of currency because they represent cryptocurrency essentially, or whether it's an asset like owning a painting, or because it's tied with cryptocurrency and its value fluctuates in a lot broader way than a regular piece of artwork does it function as a type of security? Because by owning it, you can also get royalties. You can also get, you know, things back from the NFT owners in a way that a regular painting can't offer you. So right now it's kind of a gray area, I think, in the NFT space. And the one piece of advice that I do tell people is that if NFTs are promising to give you back money by owning it, that's kind of a red flag for me, because the IRS is going to crack down on that heavily, and I think in the next year or so, because right now it's kind of like the wild, wild west, where people are like, hey, if we bring in a shitload of money, we can give tons of our holders a bunch of money, and we can give them money back through, you know, royalty sales, and we'll give 1% back to all of our holders. We'll give it back as Ethereum payments. But what that looks like to the IRS is securities, which is not being regulated in the NFT space right now. So they're gonna crack down on that. So any sort of NFT that promises cash back to you, I would say is a red flag for me, because they could be hit by the IRS and could be forced to stop at any time.
So first of all, in India, situation is that commodities or paintings and such cannot be donated to charities. It's just cash. Just a fun fact. Second thing is, you mentioned cutting more from the deduction of losses than compared to giving it for donation. And now, as you're talking about, you mentioned passive income or somebody who's trying to promise returns on this. So in stock market, there is day trading, and there are people who are just investing for the long term and expecting to gain dividends and returns throughout the time. So how is that? Of course, IRS will crack down, but with the crackdown will come more clarity also. What is doable and what is not doable. So my question to you is about passive income in crypto and in NFT space. When we say DeFi, what are the ways for passive income and finance?
So, one thing that's taken off is kind of staking your NFT. And staking your NFT, I do agree with, and I do think is a way to potentially gain value on your NFT, because what you're doing is...
what is staking for people who are not aware?
Sure. So staking is a process where the owners of the NFT create, let's call it a vault, and it's not a vault, but it's a vault for conceptual sake. And they say, if you put your NFT that you bought from us into the vault, we will promise you some sort of return in the future for not selling it. And the benefit to the people that have the project or developers is that they know their floor price won't go down. If I give you an incentive not to sell your NFT, then I know you won't drop the floor price. And so what that does is it allows them to take in more revenue to fund new giveaways, to fund new exciting things that maybe everyone who contributed to the vault can take advantage of. So staking, the way that staking works is, all right, if you stake your NFT for, let's say, 6 months, during that 6 months, you can earn tokens from us. And this is where tokenization comes into play. So let's say, let's use Apes, for example. So if Apes created a vault, or if they created staking, they would say, hey, if you stake your NFT for 6 months, we'll give you 20 ape coins every month that you're staking the project for. And then when you finally pull your NFT out of the vault and you stop it from being staked, you can take all these coins or tokens that you've earned and you can cash them in for other NFTs, other prizes, other giveaways. You can purchase whitelist entries. You can use the tokens in a way that's very similar to money, but it's not Ethereum. It's not cash. You can't cash it out at a bank. And so that's how they kind of get around the royalty payouts that we've seen previously, is by staking. And the way staking works is they have to do something for you to reward them, And so the staking is, I will guarantee that I won't sell my NFT. That's a risk that you're taking, and they're going to give you the benefit of giving you the tokens. And then while the project takes in more money, they choose how to reward the people who have staked the project by giving out prize pools for people to take advantage of, whitelist entries, all kinds of different things that only people who stake their NFTs get access to.
Bored Apes. This is a very...
that was an easy example.
Yeah, I wanted to ask a further question on Bored Apes. People who are not aware of NFTs, or many people who come into NFTs are like, that monkey images are getting so much money, so I should also get into it. So I can understand the nuance in CryptoPunks, and they implemented the blockchain technology for NFTs, a non-fungible token, which are different from each other. But what is the story or success story behind Bored Apes?
So I think, that's a good distinction to make, is that when you look at NFT punks, they're just they're a part of the history of NFTs. CryptoPunks, sorry. Yeah, they're a part of the history of NFTs. So when you're buying into them, you're not buying into a future roadmap. The project's kind of a dead project. What you're buying is an artifact. It's like buying dinosaur bones, or it's like buying ivory. It's like something that you can't get anymore.
Postal stamps.
Exactly. It's buying something that doesn't exist anymore. It's not in production. It's not, it's not fruitful. But when you look at when you look at apes, what apes have done is they've laid the foundation on how to make NFTs profitable. And so one of the greatest examples early on is they started doing merchandise, and they started setting up a community that was a community that gave access to celebrities or other people like that, who, if you were in their Discord, you could communicate with these, you could rub shoulders with high tier people. So that was kind of the start of it. But then they came out with like mutant apes. So they were one of the first projects that released a serum that you could apply to your ape and change it in a different way and get a totally different NFT that was valuable. And so this mutant ape serum was a really brilliant and innovative way to basically add value to anyone who currently owned their NFT, because someone else could buy the mutant ape serum, but if they didn't have an ape to use it on, they couldn't produce the new NFT. So what they did was they allowed people who didn't own apes to buy into serum, to buy it, because they knew apes might want it later on, and any apes that had it right now could buy it and apply it to their apes. So it was a really brilliant way to bring in new buyers for people who couldn't afford an ape or who didn't already have an ape. So that was, fantastic marketing, fantastic idea. It had never been done before. And they're just kind of they're pushing the envelope with that kind of stuff every day.
One step back, what one can have a mutant ape separately and have an ape together, or is it the same ape which is transforming into mutant ape?
See, the one thing that I'm not 100% sure on, and I believe that when you use the mutant ape serum, it does not burn the NFT. So I don't think it requires burning. I think it duplicates your ape. So okay. I think that if you own an ape and you have the serum, I think what it does is it's able to create a new NFT that is an ape version, that's a mutant version of the ape that you use the serum on.
So was it a prerequisite for people to buy serum to have an ape, or people could just buy serum and then purchase the ape from ape holders?
I'm not 100% sure how that buying process went, but it doesn't really matter because the secondary market was open for everybody. So even if they made the serum a requirement of owning an ape to buy it, people were reselling that serum on the secondary market, and tons of people who didn't own apes could buy that serum on the secondary market.
So they put in some things to keep both things valuable. To keep serum increased demand for apes, and apes also wanted serum to do something new.
Exactly, because if you could because you could buy the serum knowing that other people would want it, but if you bought it, you could have the choice of using it on your ape or selling it to someone else. So, if Tanmay, for example, owned an ape and then they gave you access to buy the serum, you might buy the serum and say, I won't even use it on my ape. I'd rather resell it. So you'd resell it to someone like Tyler, who I didn't even have an ape, but I know maybe in the future I'll buy one, or maybe I'll sell this serum again later down the line. So they're creating tons of new buyers who don't even have to own apes.
So with the recent development, they have done ape tokens, I guess. What is the new thing they have come up with?
They have ape coin.
Ape coins. So that is the same tokenization where they're rewarding the holders. So what I see them, it is quite sort of risky because it's not liquid as Ethereum that you can change. The only way to keep profiting from those ape coins is if the project is doing good. If the whole project goes down, then it is of no value, right?
That one's different. The ape coin is actually a real coin. It's a real cryptocurrency coin.
Okay.
So that one on Coinbase, you can literally put in $100 and buy ApeCoin, like easily. And they did release ApeCoin to ape holders, but they also allowed anyone who wanted to buy into ApeCoin, and then the ape project would take in that money and then use that money to grow the project. Theoretically, it would increase the value of the coin by doing that. Like you said, it's kind of like a way of funding the business. So they are one of the first projects that created a successful coin based upon the project. It's not necessarily a token. And we've seen tokens tons of times, but tokens aren't sold for a cash value.
So it's a coin, and people can buy the coin. The price of the coins are up, so as long as the project is up, and people who cannot pay 100 Ethereum, but they can buy the ape coin. So I think that's another
Correct.
good strategy.
It's a great strategy, and that's why I think apes are a fantastic example. As much as people complain about them, and as much as people cheer them on, they have laid the foundation of what a very successful project looks like. Like everything that they do is well thought out. They have a team of people who makes good art, good decisions, good business decisions. So, you know, the Bored Ape Yacht Club people, I think they're fantastic business owners. I think they're very smart and savvy people, and they've kind of really led the way in showing NFTs how to make more money out of NFTs than just NFTs.
Is the team doxed, or as doxed as in, for the listeners, people are the owners visible, or?
I'm not 100% sure if they are. I think they are, but I know they go under the company name, like I think it's Yuga Labs, I think is what they own. But I mean, they ended up acquiring Punk ownership. Yeah, they ended up buying that. So I'm not 100% sure if the entire team is docked, but you know, they function more as a corporation than anything now.
So initially they got in celebs. So I think their team is also well connected before entering into the project. And then they were able to get people around it. Awesome. That is an interesting project, and people can study that as a way for different projects. Let's talk about charitable projects or NFTs. Which are the one which you have seen that they are raising funds for a charity, but they have been successful and not a rug pull? Rug pull for listeners is, what is rug pull for listeners?
Rug pull is when the project owners take the money and they don't use it for what they say they're going to use it for. So it might be that the project brings in a bunch of money and they make a bunch of promises through their roadmap. We're going to donate, we're going to give back, we're going to do this, this, and this, and then they don't follow through on their word. They just take the money and leave.
So charitable projects which you have seen, or have you seen any charitable projects which have delivered or which are doing well? Or
yeah, so you know, some of the time when people are in my spaces, they'll pitch charitable projects, and one question that I ask all the time is, what percentage of your revenue are you donating to the charity? Because in my mind, charities need to be about putting your money where your mouth is. And if you say that this focus is the number one focus of your project, then it shouldn't be making money. It should be supporting that charity. So I always tell people, if they have a charitable focus, that don't come into my space and pitch a charitable focus project if you're not willing to donate 50% or more of all your proceeds to the charitable cause. Because if you're donating less than 50%, then it's not the most important thing you're doing the money with. You know, like it's not the number one thing you're trying to accomplish with the project. The number one thing you're trying to accomplish is making money, you know? And so I tell people all the time, like, I understand you're trying to cover costs. I understand you're trying to grow, but if less than 50% of your focus is on the charity, then it's not the most important thing for you. Like, I can tell you that with raw numbers. It's a simple equation. Where are you spending the most of your money? So, you know, with that said, I really don't see a lot of the projects doing that. But one project that I did see was a breast cancer project, and they were selling NFTs of pink vases. And this was a guy that I met in one of my spaces, and I talked to him. And one of the things that I loved that he did is that every time he was selling these and he'd make the money from the sale, he would the next day donate to the charity for his breast cancer charities. And then he would screenshot the transaction and then upload the transaction as an NFT and airdrop it to you as a way to prove to you that 50% of your money went to that charity from the NFT you bought. And when he told me that, I was a huge supporter of his project. I was like, this is fantastic, because it's, number one, adding accountability into the project, making sure that you follow through on the donation. And number two, it's adding clarity. It's me knowing as a buyer that I'm going to get proof back that my money has gone to the place that I wanted it to go. So his project, I was a big supporter of. I think it was called like glass ceramics or something. I'll have to look it up and send you the link later. But you know, he's a fantastic guy, and I loved his idea of. And he said the whole reason why he started it was because so many people run their mouth about focusing on a charity and they never deliver. There's no proof of what they do with the money. And so what he did was he airdropped every single buyer the proof of him donating the money, which I think is fantastic.
That is brilliant. That is really brilliant. I had donated 100% of that particular NFT, which I was donating towards people who have been impacted in Ukraine and the war because of that. I took a screenshot and put it as a proof within 12 hours on the tweet itself. But this is a brilliant idea to mint that as an NFT and then airdrop it to the owner. That's a very cool idea. So I'll also implement that. And I also remember that, okay, if you saying in your spaces that don't try to earn money basis of charity, but if there's something genuine, don't be afraid of sharing that as well. So I focus a portion, not just from the income of NFTs, but also other incomes towards mental health and towards the Art of Living organization. So that I just say because I like it's genuine and I like to do it. So my question was the following. The question was, if you take the Art of Living organization or the Red Cross Society, or there are some other people, how can we help them to raise funds through NFTs? Or of course that is possible and they would be interested in coming, but what are your views on that?
That's another great question. I think the major hurdle there is the technological barrier in NFTs. You know, like even the word NFT and trying to explain what that means to people is so difficult. You know, it's such a tough process. So when you look at trying to raise money for charities and you go to a charity and you say, hey, I'd love to help you with an NFT, it's going to be problematic because it's going to be hard for them to understand, and they're going to need someone that's as savvy as you are to try and get them off the ground. You know, like they're going to need to find out about smart contracts and Discord and Twitter and a lot of the stuff that they might not be prepared for, you know. But that said, I think you're right that there's a huge market for it. There's tons of people who want to use their money in the NFT space for something good, you know, like there's no doubt in my mind that exists. You know, I think that the ways that they can become successful is by running it like an NFT project, you know, setting themselves apart, dedicating a team to it, you know, having people in the right places to talk about their project, to run a Discord, and then to have proof that it's going to the organization, that they represent the organization, and that people can get some sort of utility out of it, you know. So if, let's say, they're donating to the Red Cross, the utility for me would be finding out where the money from the NFT was spent this month, you know, and they could have a portion of their site dedicated to talking about the families that directly receive benefit from the NFT funds, you know. So, you know, those charities are going to have to do a lot of work to make sure that the NFT supporters who are bringing in money for them are getting the knowledge they need about the money being put in the right places and in the right hands.
What I think is of course, they need to implement the technology and do all the things that a NFT project is doing, Discord spaces, talking about it. Additionally, they will also have to educate their regular donors who are doing it in fiat about this to, do this way also, and you can see the benefit of this. And biggest benefit of doing into NFTs and blockchain is the ledger keeping part of it, or the accounts, or the transparency of where the amount is going from which place. And for the listeners who don't know what I'm talking about, you can verify all the transactions on the internet through scanners, and that's the core of blockchain, or the what gets the belief on the blockchain technology. So they'll have to do that. And Also, when I was hosting spaces and people were coming, there was and we have seen that there are many projects who just have overhead costs. The charitable trust, 50-60% is just overheads, and hardly anything, 20-30% reaches to the ground level, to grassroots level. So I think with the NFT and implementing that in a blockchain technology, the whole game can change. They don't need 10 people to keep the accounts or just like that. So the whole thing can improve. Even what we are seeing now with the Ukraine is there are NGOs which have given crypto wallets where you can transfer directly. There is no bank restriction of when to give, what to give, no overhead charges. So I think that's an amazing. And how do you think this is going to get ahead, and what are your ambitions or dreams or with the NFTs and the whole technology?
So I'll start with this question in the charity lens, first of all, because one of the things that just came to my mind while you and I were talking about it is that NFTs allow also a cool way for people who want to donate to charities to make sure your money is going to the exact area that you want it to go to. So let's say, for example, we use the Red Cross, where let's say the Red Cross is doing disaster aid in Texas, in Africa, and India. And like, I don't want to donate my money to places where, I don't want it to go to Africa. I don't want it to go to Texas. But what if I wanted it to go directly to India or Thailand? And then the Red Cross could have an NFT that they would sell specific to that area and say, if you want your money to go directly to this area, then we'll sell you the NFT that says we're going to guarantee 1-to-1 that your money will go there. I think that that's a huge opportunity for charities as well, because, even if we think about it with school, like, do I want to spend my money on giving kids backpacks or pencils or school books? I'd much rather my money go to school books and have an overabundance of school books until that's exhausted, And so I think that that's a really neat opportunity for charities, is to sell NFTs that allow people to decide very accurately where their money goes.
Very targeted and focused implementation of where a person's will to where they want to help and where they want to support. So that's amazing. So let us come to you now. What is on your bucket list next?
Sure. So I got one more answer for your other question though about the future of NFTs.
Yeah.
And for me, it all boils down to intellectual property rights. I think, and you've been in my spaces where I've talked about this a few times. I think that intellectual property rights is the most powerful thing that NFTs allows people to have. And one of the examples that's an easy one is like photography. So if we look at photography. Yes. We look at photography NFTs. Whenever I hear those pitches in my spaces, I always say, do you plan on giving the IP rights to your holders? Because with artwork, it's very easy for it to be a part of a collection or for the artist to take off. But with photography, I think it's very difficult because the subject matter is real world. It's not necessarily, it doesn't have the same impact that kind of like, you can't create a whole story or a whole lore or, a whole meaning behind the artwork in the same way that you can with artwork. As photography is just a subject. But I think that if you let people own the IP rights to that photography, then that one person could put your photography on mugs and shirts and sell it on websites and sell it to other people to get your artwork out there. And then tons of other companies are going to say, where did this artwork come from? Where did this photography come from? And so it's a super easy way to make, I think, photography NFTs very valuable is by telling everyone you can resell this artwork commercially, like yourself. And if you own it, you own the exclusive commercial rights to it. And the opportunities that permits is huge because we just haven't seen that in our lifetimes. Like, companies that make something, or artists that make something, for the whole history of our lives have historically owned the IP rights for it. So that even if you bought it, you didn't own a way to make money off of it, even though you bought it. And so, some of the interesting implications I've seen is, I talked to someone that was making an NFT, that he was making a documentary about the AMC and GME saga, and his NFT holders.
What is AMC, and can you?
AMC and GME are two companies that AMC is a movie theater chain in the United States, and GME is GameStop. And they went through a major stock short squeeze last year.
Yeah, GameStop was in the market and news, and how common folks were coming together through Reddit and tackling the Wall Street folks.
Exactly. So he's making a documentary about it. And so his documentary is going to be sold as an NFT. So essentially, any of the NFT holders are going to buy a ticket to watch the movie, and he's going to release the file to you. And then I was like, okay, well, if owning an NFT as a movie ticket is a cool idea. I was like, I think that's a neat idea. I was like, but the people you've sold the NFT from, you said they own it. I was like, are you saying that they could upload it to their YouTube channel and they could monetize all the views off of it themselves? And he said, yes, absolutely.
Oh my God.
And I was like, that's brilliant. I go, like, because think about someone that might have 100,000, 150,000 following on YouTube. They could just start buying NFT movies and releasing it on their YouTube, and then they could start profiting on it just by buying it. I go, I think that's a brilliant application of NFTs to movies, that the first ticket holders get commercial rights. And so now, instead of one person or even a very small group of people being able to make money on it, you're allowing 100, 500, 1,000 people commercial rights to make money on it. And they have to compete with each other, because you could all release it in the same way. But it's a very fascinating way to kind of allow more people to make more money from it. So I think that topic is so, to me, at the foundational level of why NFTs are important. And it's because the transferring of IP rights, the sharing of commercial rights, and allowing more people to make more money from things that are interesting.
So there are some problems, implementation problem, which came to my mind, but there are also some solutions. So firstly, people who buy first, so they will have to campaign very well for the first buyers, because that's when they're going to have the most sales. If they just have 1-2 buyers, then they're not going to earn anything, because those buyers will go and put it up, and they just cut off the whole next stream of income for the creator of the project. So to have a goal of collecting this much amount and then having that many owners, I think that would work. Or second is just sell it to one buyer and keep an auction for that from the whole community. So what that one or couple of 2 people can earn from that. So what are your views?
I think his goal was that more people seeing the documentary was his end game. Okay. And it didn't matter how many tickets he sold, or it didn't matter if you used it commercially, because he wanted people to see the documentary, which would allow him to be a more profitable and influential filmmaker in the future.
Hello.
You know what I mean? Like he didn't have the budget to try and get his message out to 1 million people. But if he allowed his NFT holders to make money on it, and then they took his message to millions and millions of people, then tons of people are going to say, who's the filmmaker? Who made this? And then he viewed it as that accelerating his career and that accelerating all of his future projects in a way that would make it worth it. Or if in this first project, he made a couple people rich, a lot more people are going to buy his next project.
Can you name this person? I'll put the link in the description.
Oh God, I don't remember his name. I'm gonna have to find him. I'll do some digging on my Twitter after this, and I'll
that will be very interesting. Couple of my NFTs also I have mentioned. You can do whatever you want with this. You have the commercial rights in the description I've mentioned. So that's a very nice thing to do. and the whole empowerment of owning from a digital asset or making money instead of just putting it on Instagram and having likes on it is a game changer for all the creators, I believe.
Well, you know that an ape owner is starting a restaurant in California with all themed restaurant material around his ape that he owns.
Oh my God! Wow.
Yeah. So think about all the Bored Ape Yacht Club owners that are going to want to go eat at this restaurant and see his ape on their cups, see it on the napkins. All of the menu items are themed around Bored Apes and stuff like that. So they're going to want to support him. They're going to want to come support his restaurant, because he represents the ape community, and they're going to want to make him successful. So yeah, Google that after you get off of this, ape restaurant. And the guy is starting out in California, and the people from Yuga Labs that started Bored Ape Yacht Club, they're ecstatic about it. They love that someone's taken their NFT and making a restaurant from it.
We can do t-shirts, mugs, and you can do n number of things if you just get the commercial right of that visuals. And the word demand drives demand, and there are already 10,000 of them. So there's a whole different community. I've even heard of Discords specifically for apes, which have just hats and goggles, and there are small communities which form around
pizza ones and stuff like that.
So, do you regret not getting an ape, or was it too late when you entered?
I had missed it by like 3 weeks. But to be honest, I don't know that I was even ready to be an NFT buyer at that period of time because I didn't understand it well enough. Do I regret it now? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, because I think when I was ready to start buying in the NFT space, I think apes were at like 8 Ethereum or 9 Ethereum. And to me, I didn't have, $20,000 to drop on it. To me, $15,000-$20,000 seemed like an insane amount of money. It seemed an insane amount of money at the time. And then now to watch them go to 50 and 60,000, I'm like, wow, that's insane.
100 Ethereum, last I heard, 8 Ethereum to 100 Ethereum. And that's insane. I got into NFTs 1 year ago, like March 7th, I minted my first NFT, but it was all experimental. I was just exploring, and I was like, cool, I can present my artwork to the world now. I don't have to depend on galleries, or let's just see how it works out. So that was my approach. And then I was like, oh my God, this apes and what is happening here? So I didn't FOMO into it. I was like, let's wait and watch and let's see how this is. And I was more into art and expression. But I'm totally bullish on how the space is growing, and it can be a specialized field of specialization now, and a field of consultancy, and there's a whole business coming into it. So on this space also, I'm looking forward to, just like you, interview more experts on more narrow fields of the space, like metaverse or DeFi or crypto wallets and security. So I will be getting to you on Twitter about giving me leads on who are the right people to talk to about this. So we are sort of coming to the end of a session, and I want to ask you a few personal questions. What is on your bucket list now?
Sure. So bucket list for NFTs?
In life, in NFTs, whatever is in the bucket list. So
actually, I'm planning on selling my house here soon, and I'm gonna buy an RV with my wife and my daughter, and we're gonna travel the United States. And in my role right now, I work remotely, and I can work remotely. So I plan on traveling around the United States and seeing a bunch of state parks, and kind of just like living and working in a really nice RV that's just looking out on these beautiful state parks. So that's kind of like major on my bucket list right now.
Are you in New York? Which part are you in?
I'm in Florida.
Okay, Miami.
So I'm actually in Jacksonville, which is North Florida.
Okay, not that hot.
No, it's hot, but not as hot as where you are. I would say it gets to maybe 38 or 39.
Okay, so pleasant.
Yeah,
Okay.
fairly pleasant.
So
And then
RV and around America trip, that sounds exciting. Please continue.
yeah, so that's first for me, and then really just more of seeing the world. I've done a good bit of traveling in my life. I've been in some cool places. I've been to Australia and Bali and Mexico and Norway, and I've been to Japan. And so I'd like to just see a lot more of the world. I'd like to see a lot more of Asia and Europe, and maybe eventually go see Africa. My wife and I are thinking about doing a honeymoon in Patagonia. So really just kind of, I recommend travel to people more than anything. I think it's the number one thing that can make you not only appreciate your own life, but appreciate other people's lives. So I'm really passionate about traveling and kind of just getting out there and seeing the world.
Travel is expensive. It holds back people from doing it. But with technology and being able to do work remotely, and there are so many things that are possible now. I have heard of a family that is living on a boat, not even land. They've been living on a boat, traveling around the world for like 6-8 years, and all 3 kids and the whole husband and wife have grown on the ship, and like, you can do whatever you're willing to now, whatever you're passionate about. So they didn't get to know about COVID till they hit a coast or till they came by. So
that's wild.
I have done a bike ride. I love traveling. I have traveled most of India, north, west, and south. Northeast is remaining, and the eastern states are remaining. India is beautiful. I would invite you to be my guest.
India's on my hit list too. I actually love cooking. I'm a very passionate cook, and when I was in Australia, I had a roommate that was Indian, and it was the first time I got to eat Indian food. I was 20 years old. It was the first time I ever had it, and it just kind of blew me away. And to this day, Indian food is my favorite cuisine, and I love cooking Indian food.
You cook them? Wow.
Yeah, I make the basic dishes like chicken tikka masala, but I also love to make things like, lamb vindaloo. I love making samosas. I love making naan. I love making gobi Manchurian, chicken 65,
oh my God.
biryani. I love making tandoori chicken. I mean, I love jalebi. I'm a huge fan of jalebi.
I'm hungry now.
So I'm a huge fan, and kormas. I make a lot of kormas too. So I'm a big fan of Indian food. So I'm dying to see India and try some authentic cuisine there.
Absolutely. Be our guest. You're most welcome. You have a home here. Whenever you're coming, let us know. And it's wonderful. It's like Europe. India is like Europe, because every state has a different language, completely different language, different scripts and everything different, and culture is different, clothing, cuisine, everything is different. So North is not same as South, but of course with the globalization and thing, you'll get everything everywhere. But it's amazing to witness the local cuisine, local culture, and interact with them. And it is very affordable, like for people, even for Indians, but especially for people who are coming from US, or because of the exchange and all that. So it's really amazing. You'll have a great time here.
And what's I can't remember the name. What's the dessert? It's the little balls that are in the honey sauce.
Yeah, that is gulab jamun.
Gulab, yeah, that's right. That's one of my favorites.
That is gulab jamun, and you should also try rasgullas. They are white. Gulab jamunas are brownish.
Yeah.
The one you're talking about is brown, right?
Yes,
so,
it's brown.
So these are sort of fried and then put into what do you say? Honey, or you're saying the sugar. I don't know what that's called. We call it chasni, but sugar caramel, I don't know what's that. But anyways, there's the other thing which is called rasgullas. They are white in color. They're made out of cottage cheese or paneer, and they are amazing. If you they're so juicy. Like you put them in the mouth, and it's amazing. I'll send an image of you, and you can find it if you get it around you.
Yeah, write me on Twitter, write me a recipe or something, and I'll make it. I mean, I love it.
It's amazing, and samosas are awesome.
Yeah, those are like my late night snacks.
So cool. I never thought you would be so keen on an Indian food or even be cooking yourself.
I'm not even joking. I make Indian food once a week. My wife loves Indian food, and she had never even tried Indian food before she met me. And like I make Indian food just all the time because it's so flavorful, it's so delicious, and to be honest, it's funny, when I first started making it, it wasn't tasting as good as the Indian restaurants that I used to go to all the time. And so I went to some of these Indian restaurants where I knew the people, because I was going there all the time. And I was like, how do I make my Indian food taste better? And they were like, where are you buying your spices from? And I was like, oh, I'm just going to the grocery store. And they're like, you have to go to an Indian joint and buy from an Indian store, because they're going to give you the whole spices, to grind them down and use them more than pestle. And like the intensity of their spices is so much better. And since I started doing that, I think my Indian food tastes as good as restaurant Indian food, because I use a ton of, the turmeric is so much different from an Indian spice place than from a grocery store. It tastes night and day different.
Absolutely. And I'm not sure about your capacity to take spice, but
I grow my own peppers.
So
I eat max hot everything. I tell everywhere Indian hot, I get max hot everywhere.
Awesome. So then you won't have a problem. Otherwise, I suggest people that be considerate, and tell people that you want low spicy.
Dude, get this. So when I go to Indian joints, I tell them, please, when I say Indian hot, don't serve it to me like a white guy. Like don't look at me and say like, oh, this guy's just ordering Indian hot. I was like, I grow my own peppers to use in my Indian food. So I got 60 pepper plants in my backyard. I was like, I want you to make an Indian just like you would serve it at your house. I want it as hot as you can possibly make it, and I'll never send it back. I'll never complain. And so
awesome.
when I say that, usually I'll get it proper hot.
That is so incredible. Amazing. So travel and food, what else? Do you read books or like watching movies, or what are your hobbies?
Yeah. So I love reading books. I'm a big fantasy reader. I read fantasy books more than anything. I like Brandon Sanderson. He wrote a series called The Way of Kings and a series called Mistborn. I'm a huge fan of him. Robert Jordan, The Wheel of Time. Patrick Rothfuss, The Name of the Wind. Those are some of my all-time favorite fantasy books. And then some of my other hobbies. Obviously, I love watching movies. Huge movie fan. But I like riding dirt bikes, and I like fishing. I like being outdoors. I was an avid surfer for a long time. I live right near the water. So between fishing, surfing, and dirt bikes, those are kind of my main outdoor hobbies.
Wow. And you mentioned before we started recording that you have lived in Australia, and Australia is a place for all the adrenaline junkies and all the outdoor sports. So I'm sure you have developed interest for that as well. And for the fun fact, guys, he has studied English literature before coming into marketing. So
that's right.
So, and you like to read fantasy books. So that's another amazing. I'll try to Google these names because I've been more into self-help or biographies. But these fantasy books really expand the imagination, even while watching movies. I like to watch movies more than books, seeing books, reading books. So the animated movies and the other ones, we think it's made for kids, but they have so many deeper meanings as well into it, and they the whole humor into it, and the way they visualize it, the lightings and the characters are really amazing from an artist's perspective. It just your imagination starts running in different ways. So
yeah, have you seen much of the Miyazaki films?
No. Which one?
Yeah, so Miyazaki he's a really famous Japanese animator, and he made the movie Spirited Away, Howl's Moving Castle, My Neighbor Totoro, and so he's super famous in Japan. And like I would say that Spirited Away in Japan was even more famous than like Star Wars in the United States. It's hugely famous, and it's one of those animations that the themes are so deep and the music is so good, and like you said, the color and the lighting is so good that it's hard not to believe that it was also written for adults, because it's so profound when you finish watching it.
I will check this out. I'll watch this on my off day this week.
Yeah, it's a good one. Spirited Away. Watch that one first.
Okay. All right. It has been a wonderful talking to you every week on Spaces, and now to actually see you and talk to you and have a personal chat about all the issues. Thank you so much for your time. I would advise all listeners to join him on the Spaces to get feedback on your personal projects or your artworks, or help you out in the marketing, not just NFTs, but also in other field, wherever you want marketing insights. He's an amazing person and he'll help you out on that. So thank you very much. Anything would you like to end with? What would you like to conclude with?
I would say thanks for having me, Tanmay. You know, I've always super loved talking to you in my spaces. You know, I think it's great to see people like you who are kind of leading the path, not only as an artist, but as someone that's willing to put on like a radio and podcasts like this. And you know, you're obviously engaged in spaces all the time. I see you recognize people all the time, call people out all the time. You respect people's art, you support people's art. You're out there to help people just as much as I'm out there to help people. So I wanted to give a shout out to you and say, you know, thanks for doing that. And I number one, you know that I met you because of your artwork, and I love your artwork. So I love to see you kind of moving into these other awesome areas that are helping get NFTs out to people and help broadening our community as well. So that's really cool to see.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. You're too kind for saying that. I'm always striving and trying to learn new things and just being consistent, and other things are just come with the nature of just trying to give or trying to create. So thank you very much. Have a great week ahead. Have a great night. Sending a lot of love and hugs and best wishes to you, your daughter, and your whole family. Thank you.
Likewise. Thanks so much for having me, Tanmay. I super enjoyed it. We'll talk soon, okay?
Thanks for tuning in. Connect with me on Twitter and Instagram to get updates on the new shows and to participate on live recordings. All links are mentioned in the show notes. We will be back next week with another fantastic episode.